No, please.
No, come on.
No, honestly,
you go.
You.
Alright.
I got stuff to do anyway.
Okay.
Just
Alright. Okay.
asshole.
Fuck you.
What's shaking booktube? My name's Cam and welcome back to another video. Almost a year ago I did a video called 5 must-have apps for writers, and just recently it's kind of blown up again. That video in particular is one of the videos I've done on this channel that I'm most proud of, just because of how well done I think it was and how useful in retrospect I still think it is. And those 5 apps for the most part I still think are the most useful apps for writers that you're going to find. But I'm doing a follow-up today. Today I'll be telling you about 5 more apps that should make writing a lot easier.
Roll the intro. There, I did it.
Prick. If you haven't seen the first video I did giving 5 apps for writers, I recommend checking it out. After you finish watching this one, I will leave a card up there. Very useful, but I'm just going to jump into the next 5. Number 1 is one of the only 2 apps on this list that actually cost money, and this one is the cheapest one. This one will cost you about $2.99. Now that's Australian dollars. I'm not sure if they keep it the same for other people. You might just have to check it out yourself. At this point in time, it is available on iOS and the Google Play Store, and basically it's called the Brainstormer. The Brainstormer is one of those handy apps that can kind of give you a jolt of inspirational creativity that most people need when they're stuck in a bit of a writing slump. The premise is pretty simple. You get 3 wheels and it gives you a whole ton of predetermined ones, but you can set your own as well with your own characters, environments, ideas, etc. You get 3 wheels and it spins them. For example, you could set a character, a location, and a genre. Spin them, it'll give you one of each of those things, and you can treat that as a writing prompt for maybe a short story, or as I said before, you can set them yourself. So if you're having trouble coming up with some exciting story devices for the next chapter of your story, you can set some of your ideas in that wheel, give them a spin, see what you land with. Very handy. For $3, I think that's not a bad deal for something that could give you that creativity injection that you might need. The next one may seem a bit unconventional, and this one's free, but this is something that I actively try and use every day. If you call yourself a writer, then I'm sure you know that being articulate and having a larger than average vocabulary is quite good for giving a writer's work flavor. If you want to prove you're a good writer, you have to flex those writing muscles. You need to stock your arsenal with a lot more words than you're probably used to using in everyday dialogue. And a great way to do that is with the app Word of the Day. As the name would suggest, it quite literally just gives you a new word every day that you might not have known before, and the definition. Obviously there's a few more features involved in that if you want to go that step further, but for the most part this is just something you can do when you wake up every morning. Just check Word of the Day. There's another bullet in your belt as far as being a writer goes. It's as simple as that, and the next one is probably the one that you are most likely would have already heard of. I am talking about Grammarly, which you can pay for, but the free version works just as well. Grammarly is, as it's advertised, something that was put together by a ton, and I mean a ton, of professional writers and editors and copy editors. In a nutshell, what Grammarly does is it scans all of the writing that you've done and tells you where there's any room for improvement. That includes spelling, grammar, style. It even tells you if you're overusing certain words, which is something that a lot of different writers and professional authors are faulted on from time to time. It tells you if there's instances that could be considered contextual errors. It's amazing. Obviously, you wouldn't use this as an alternative to actually hiring an editor before you put your book out, but it is something that I would recommend using before you send it to the editor. Makes you look a bit more professional and makes their job a bit easier. You can even do writing within the Grammarly app itself, otherwise you can just have it added in to your Microsoft Word, which is what I do. You can even import it into your browser so that it'll scan your writing before you send emails or Facebook posts, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. So in that other video that I keep mentioning, the first, I guess part 1 to this, the 5 must-have apps for writers, I spoke about using Google Translate to kind of put down a template for if you were to have other languages in your book. Basically, before you send it off to an actual person who speaks that language fluently to check it for you, maybe just use Google Translate to fill in the space with the template. And it was pointed out to me in the comments that I didn't really stress clearly enough that that should not be the final stop for having another language in your story. You do need to make sure you get it checked by someone who speaks that language. I said that Google Translate is incredibly accurate, and while I believe that's true when compared to other translating services, it's not true as a whole. We all know Google Translate tends to fuck up almost every kind of translation. In the way of context anyway, it does a pretty good job, but it's never going to be 100% accurate if you're using it for large portions of foreign language. Someone went a step further in the comments of that video to tell me about an app called Hi Native, which is free and which I'll be discussing right now. Hi Native is the best solution to having another language in your story, period. I checked it out and I was absolutely blown away. Basically, it's kind of like a forum setting where you would post a question saying, how would I say this in this language? And then you'll get responses from a ton of people telling you exactly how you would say that in that language. It's as simple as that. You're going to get accurate answers from people who actually speak the language. It's absolutely fantastic, and this is something I wish I would have put in that first video, the 5 must-have apps for writers, because I believe this is a top-tier app for writers. So that brings me to number 5, and number 5 is a bit of a special one, A, because it's $40, and B, because it is an application, but it's an application for your Mac, your PC, and I believe it just got compatibility for tablets as well, maybe specifically iPads. It's called WriteMapper, and just to clarify, I was sent a license for this application so that I could give it an honest review. And the best way for me to give you an honest review is to actually show you the app itself. So that's what I'm going to do. Take it away, Future Cam.
Alrighty, so here we are, WriteMapper. I'll be honest, I was a bit skeptical when I was emailed about doing a review for this because it didn't seem like it was coming from a business so much rather than an individual, and turns out it is actually quite a big, or at least quite a popular application. I mean, it's been mentioned in Forbes and a bunch of other places. But basically, I think in a nutshell, what WriteMapper is it's an application primarily for outlining your story, for preparing it in a way that you can have it all spread out in front of you. And I'm going to show you in a minute, but my outlining process has always been quite literally just to write it on a piece of paper. I've just never tried anything else, so I've never seen the need for it. But I played around with this for a bit, and again, I was skeptical because it's $40 US, right? And that's just a once-off payment, and then you've got it for a lifetime. Otherwise, I think for another $20 you can get it for 2 computers, that sort of thing. So I was like, $40 for an outlining tool seems like a bit much. And after looking through the whole thing, I think there is still some room to add more stuff into it without raising the price. But it is actually pretty good. The interface seemed pretty simple when I first started, but basically what it is you start off and you get quite literally just this bubble here. And let's say I was writing a story called Harry Potter. That would be your first bubble, and then there's a bunch of stuff you can do. You can color code it, you can kind of stylize it however you want, but here's the purpose of it. So you add more little windows, and basically, let's say I wanted to add a window for characters. Right? And then you can then you would add, let's say, let's just say 3 for now. 3 windows, and you've got Harry. And another cool thing is that there's like hotkeys for all of this stuff. Ron, and then Hermione. And then you could go even further from that through the characters here, and you could add stuff like, let's say, physical appearance. And see, the cool thing is, then if you were to double click on physical appearance, this is where you could add in, all the specific stuff. So like curly hair, I think she had brown eyes, blah blah blah, etc., etc. And you can add like so much. You can just have this massive, like, that's what it is. It's a map. It's a write map. So you would have this massive kind of spreadsheet in front of you where you can physically see the outline of your story, which I think is fantastic. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I had the license sent to me for free in exchange for an honest review, but I'm definitely going to be using this for my stories going forward because this seems like an easy way to plan everything, and then if I'm writing the story and I need to remember certain things about a character or a chapter, I can go back to here and I can find it easily. So aside from characters, maybe you want to add in, let's say, chapter summaries. Some people like to plan the chapters in short summaries as they go. So you would have like, chapters, then chapter 1, double click on that, add in a summary for the chapter. Boom, done. So there's a free trial for WriteMapper if you just want to test it out, see if it's for you. Obviously, the link's going to be in the description below, but I would recommend at least giving it a try. Because like me, you might be pretty simplistic with how you like to outline your stuff, and I had no interest in trying anything like this before, but after seeing how useful it can be, I'm just kind of blown away. So it's not on smartphones, as I'm aware just yet, it's just on like tablets and a Mac and PC, and to be honest, I think that's probably the way to go, using it on a computer rather than a smartphone, maybe a tablet. The functionality of this, I just can't imagine being that handy on a phone. I'm not too sure. Having it on a PC is pretty easy to navigate. And obviously, once you fill up this space with all these nodes and that kind of stuff, it can get pretty messy. So you can also minimize them, which is pretty cool. So you would have like, the name of your story in the middle here, and then all this reference material maybe in a circle around that, like chapters, characters, locations, etc., and then you click the little white bubble on each of those, opens up more. All of the reference material you could possibly need for your story. Bam, just like that. And just quickly, before I finish up with talking about WriteMapper as well, I want to show you this. So this is the tutorial kind of page stuff where it shows you all of the different stuff you can do. You can pause the video here if you like, just to have a look at all of them. But as you can see, there is just a ton of shit you can do here. Enabling night mode is something I'm interested in, because Alt Control and N, because I'm not a fan of having like bright, like white coming at me constantly. Yeah, that's better. Anyway, yeah, WriteMapper, check it out.
So there you have it, that's 5 apps that are going to really help you out as a writer. As I said, most of them are free, so you really have nothing to lose by at least giving them a try. Please also check out the 5 must-have apps for writers video if you haven't seen that already, because as I said before, for the most part, those apps in that video are the ones that I think are top tier in terms of handiness for a writer. As always, thanks for writing, good luck with your stories guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch ya.